Don't be stressed because we're live now. I know
we are live right now.
Yeah. We're just talking about how stressed you get from going live because it's the producer in you, famed CBC, Global, CBS producer Zev Shalev shits his pants when he hits the live button.
Not because I'm scared of you guys. I love you guys, and thanks for being here. It's the fact that, and you, Dean, especially. I mean, I'm a little scared around you because you're such a rock star. But I am terrified of things not going perfectly correctly because I'm a producer, and my whole thing is about being I'm a Virgo. So you got a lot of Virgo-tude going on. So everything's got to be perfect. And if it's not, I get all stressed out. But it's live, and you got to let that go. So I'm letting it go.
Well, yeah, you should, because we're live and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like, I'm a big fan of that. I know people that get performance anxiety. I did a radio show for a solid 15 years, live radio, and wouldn't have it any other way. Like, the idea of pre-producing a program just sucked to me. And then I started watching the podcast revolution and really shitty podcasters, terrible communicators that were able to edit their way into fandom, edit their way into some kind of personality. And you have a very strong personality. You know what you're doing. Oh, heads up over there. You're going.
Something just tripped. There you go. See, that freaks me out. But I'm going to go with it.
But you know what? The live thing. You know what I realized is that, and there's lots of people watching now. And we've got about 100 people, and we're a couple minutes into it. And hi everybody.
Hi.
Really, really nice that you joined us today. But you know what I like about the live thing, especially now in the new space that we work in, is the fact that people appreciate it. They feel like they're sitting in on a conversation. I was watching Jim Acosta and Adam Kinzinger today, and it's a conversation, right? It doesn't have to be this big pre-produced mess that you got to put together and you cut corners and you take away. People like sloppy. People like us, and trust me, I've been sloppy for a solid 30 years in entertainment. So
people don't know how big a name you are in Canada, where you hosted the, I'm going to get this wrong, and I hope I don't, 102.1 The Edge.
Correct.
A breakfast show, because you were a staple. I mean, you were the first and still maybe the only really big shock jock in Canadian radio. And so everybody knows who you are in Canada. And I certainly loved listening to your show all the time when it was on the air. And it's a criminal that you're not on the air. In fact, why is this guy not on the air in the morning here in Toronto? We need him back. So heads up to the 3 people who own radio stations here, or is it 2 now? So we still may explain it, but you're so good at it and you're so flawless at it that it's a pleasure to do the show with you live, because I know there's always going to be someone who's going to be able to fix anything that I screw up on.
No, dude, I just follow your lead. That's why I make you do all the hard work, and then I just kind of come in and do all the fun stuff. But you know what? It's funny because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this today, but I was really looking forward to doing it because I moved this weekend, and I don't know anybody that hates moving more than me. Like, I don't know anybody that hates moving more than me. I fucking hate it. I've done so many trips back and forth, and you're forgetting things, and you go back and you got a fucking closet full of shit, and you're like, oh my God, how did I miss that closet? That was me this weekend, all weekend long, and all week last week. So, and then of course, trying to keep people updated, right? So you take a break from doing some moving, and you're all wet and sweaty because you're wet and sweaty from moving shit, and you sit down and you pump out an article about how Canada dominated Trump and how we're ready for this tariff war. We'll get to that. Or, the latest on Elon's pure insanity. And so, it's funny because being here on Substack, I feel like this is this beautiful community where you have to pay attention to it. And you got to keep people updated. And so, but let me tell you this, is that if it wasn't for moving this weekend, I wouldn't have the sorest ass of my life. Oh. Like, my ass is sore. I don't know why, and it's not. I don't know. There's no chafing. It's none of that.
It's actual exercise, probably.
It's actual exercise, because when you do the kind of work, when you do the kind of work we do, it doesn't really encourage exercise. Oliver, we need you too. Nice to be here today. It's going to have a fun time for the FiveStack. And by the way, just last little quip about moving. Movers are just gangsters. That's all they are. They're criminal. They're scammers. They're like the original crypto bros.
So wait, you had movers and then you also traveled 6 times back and forth? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, now I've got things and I forget things, and you got to go back. And I know. I'm not organized like you, dude. Like, I know you're all organized. I'm not organized.
I'm not organized. I appear to be organized, but I'm not organized.
You look organized.
Yeah, that's just a lie. It's just a myth. It's a fabrication. Anyhow, congratulations on your move. You look very nice. The backdrop looks very sweet. And
thank you.
Nice new digs. You sound good good too. Let's get into the FiveStack, the top 5 stories of this moment here on Substack, and let's begin. Let's begin with the gaslighting of NBC News. Actually was my number one story going in, but I feel like I want to hear you on this. You know, so Donald Trump calls Kristen Walker at Meet the Press, and he's like, "I'm mad as hell at Vladimir Putin," and everybody takes that for granted and is like, oh my God, he's mad as hell at Vladimir Putin and he's going to institute these new tariffs on Putin and make it difficult for him to sell oil around the world. This is not true. This is not true, people. We know that Putin and Trump have the same agenda. They're one and the same team. If there is any anger that's being displayed publicly by Vlad, I don't know, is that me that's going all that beep?
No, it's me. I'm sorry. I got
you gotta turn your
friggin'
notification thing off.
stupid notifications. Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. I'll keep talking. You can take a look, figure that out. But the reality of it is, it's just a threat of secondary tariffs. These guys are lockstep with each other. So if Putin is upset about anything, he wouldn't let Donald Trump go out there and say that publicly. He's only allowing Donald Trump to go out there and say he's angry at Putin because they've had such a shitty week last week. I mean, the administration last week was scrambling left, right, and center to make itself acceptable to America after the awful Signalgate experience, where, basically they're giving away confidential secrets on a group chat, and then also, putting the lives of America's finest who are fighting for America at risk, and also putting at risk Israeli intelligence sources that are living in a combat zone and risking their lives by giving all this information. So they did all that on a group chat. Didn't do anything about it, didn't give a shit about it, didn't care about it. And then, and
yeah, Caroline Levitt today said the case is closed.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. and so this thing keeps blowing up. And so what they're doing is he does an interview with NBC News just to like just take over the entire oxygen in the room and then he gaslights everyone by saying, I'm mad as hell at Vladimir Putin. He's not mad at Vladimir Putin. They're buddies. They're in cahoots together. That's story number 5. What do you think?
Yeah, a couple of things. There's a media angle to this, and then let's just kind of take the mask off of Donald Trump for a second. Anytime you hear anything that is somewhat unfriendly towards Putin, which you never do, it is an op, it is an act, it is a joke, it is meant to disregard people's opinions on a certain subject. It is meant to, as you point out, flood the zone with a little bit of hope. Oh, maybe he doesn't like Putin. He fucking loves Putin. Donald Trump is in love with Vladimir Putin, and they have been in love with each other for a very fucking long time. Yuri Shvets, your guy, I know you've interviewed him. He's a former KGB agent, has talked at length about the op that has gone into 30 years, getting a guy with hubris and ego and influence and money and feeding him the money so you can feed his ego. And he and Putin and Donald Trump have been in lockstep for years. We're talking regular phone calls at Mar-a-Lago that we're just getting tuned into. Do you think for a fucking second that he's going to sanction Vladimir Putin? Do you think for a fucking second that he's actually mad at Vladimir Putin? No, not at all. That was a fucking phone call where Vlad picks up the phone. He's like, okay, you're taking a little heat. Let's just pretend it's in a Russian accent. You're taking a little heat. Tell everybody you're mad as hell at me. Just mad as hell. So what comes out? Mad as hell. And how does he do it? He offers an interview to the enemy. And he goes, this is the media portion. He goes to the media company. He's like, okay, I'll give you a shot at some access here, but this is a real story. So he puts it on. He doesn't go to Truth Social with it. He doesn't go to any of the right wing nor Fox News or Breitbart. He goes right to the organizations he said should be disbanded, disrupted, and turned off, because he truly does know that that's the real news, and he wants to get that information into the real news atmosphere so he can get people to think that indeed he's really mad at Vladimir Putin. No, he's been polishing Putin's knob for decades, dudes and dudettes. It's a lot like the Polyev stuff that happened up here, if you remember correctly. It's a very, very similar thing where and it was Putin that did it to Kamala at first, where he was being interviewed and he's like, I think Kamala, you should probably vote for her. America should vote for her. She's going to be a better leader. And then everybody runs the other way. And it's the same thing with Pierre Polyev when he's like, Yeah, I'd like Mark Carney to win. He's a liberal. I think that'd be way more fun and a lot of liberal. That was directly from Putin. I have no question in my
A
mind. He gets
hundred
footnotes
percent.
and talking points from Putin on a daily fucking basis.
100%. It's why he gets those 2 a.m. tweets from him every day because it's 9 a.m.
Oh
in
yeah,
Moscow,
oh
and
yeah.
they know that's when that's the time when you get all the information out. So Trump likes to get a head start on that. But look, for sure, you're 100% right. There's nothing real going on in this so-called feud or anger or anything. It just doesn't exist because they both benefit in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Their bread is buttered on the same side. So there's really no chance that they're having a spat with each other. They're both in the same thing together. And
No, not only are they the same thing together, dude. They've been cooking this up for a long fucking
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like and no one's better at misdirecting people than the former head of the KGB, Vladimir Putin. Like it's absolutely fucking nobody that's better at this, right?
It,
To get
it's
people
just
to buy into this stuff.
it's just amazing that NBC falls for this. I mean, they have furious headlines of the whole weekend. Oh my God, Donald Trump is so angry at Vladimir Putin, throwing tantrums. That he's not doing it. He's not doing it. And I mean, this is not
No,
the NBC's first go around with this guy. I mean, they've been around the block with this guy a few times, and they're still peddling his disinformation. And they wonder why he laughs at them all the time and makes fun of their, numbers and whatever. They just not just either not thinking or they're complicit or whatever it is. They're involved somehow. So don't fall for it. Story number 5 is Putin is not really angry. I mean, Trump is not really angry with Putin. But do fall for this story. This is a real big story happening tomorrow. Number 4 story is all about the elections happening in Florida and Wisconsin. Special elections in one of them is Gates's old seat, and the other one is a congressional district for the state senator. Both not likely to go the Democrats' way, but what people are concerned about is, hey, can we see? I'm sorry, the second seat was the Waltz seats, the Michael Waltz seats. In both cases, people are looking at the margin. These are safe Republican districts. If they can take back, they can scale back the support for the Republicans from 30% to 10% plus. Well, then they've done a lot. The Democrats would have proven that there's a big swing in the country in those two very red districts. It's not likely Democrats are going to win, but they're going to put in a big fight. And the other big fight, of course, is the Wisconsin Supreme Court battle, where Elon Musk has poured a ton of money, $20 million through his PACs, to get the Republican on board, the Wisconsin Supreme Court board. It's a big deal. It'll mean determining a lot of legislation coming down the line, including the gerrymandering of Wisconsin, which has been a nightmare ever since. Now, why is Elon Musk doing this? There's lots of allegations that he's doing it for private reasons, that he just wants to get his own companies cleared of some things. But clearly, he's just doing what he did with Donald Trump, buying yet another election. We'll see if the electorate in Wisconsin actually buys it this time.
I think it will. It worked the last time he did it. $1 million is a lot. Speaking of which, he's given away $1 million to people who signed up. It was this voter registry thing that he was doing. Like, yay, America! One of the winners was the president of the Young Republicans Club of Wisconsin. So like let's just throw out the idea that this was a raffle for hardworking Americans that just wanted to fucking vote. Yeah, I got to tell you, as illegal as this is, and it is illegal to do this. This is vote rigging, vote buying. Um, I got to go back to what we found out about Elon Musk since he started this Doge journey. And I think what we found out about him is that every single agency that he's targeted, with the exception of the Department of Education, right? That's a favor. Has been investigating him, had active investigations into him, or we're getting ready to come down on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the SEC, whether it's the oligarch investigation arm of the government, whether it was
DOJ,
the DOJ, like he's
the
literally.
the consumer board investigation of Tesla cars and Starlink, all these things. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Neuralink, you name it.
Neuralink, yeah. So every organization of his, because he operates on the edge illegally, and he's a foreign asset. And I still can't believe, a quick side note: America, the freest, most fucking serious nationalistic xenophobic country literally handed everything over to some South African incel who hates them, by the way. But anyway, that's another fucking aside that I'll never be able to reconcile. But there is no doubt in my mind that Elon Musk is doing this because this touches him in some capacity in a negative way. Whether you want someone from the Supreme Court, whether you want someone in Matt Gaetz's old seat, because I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, that he hasn't paid attention to Florida. He's all in on Wisconsin. So
Yeah, that's right.
give it 6 or 7 days after the election tomorrow, after the special election. Give it 6 or 7 days to find out, who is investigating him in Wisconsin and for what,
Yeah.
or the attachment of that seat in the Supreme Court jurisdiction to any kind of outcome that he's trying to drive, because that's what he's doing. If you remember the Tucker Carlson interview where he was like, hey, if this doesn't work, I'm going to fucking jail for the rest of my life. I'll never see my kids again. That all continues to play. He plays this out in front of us like we're dumb, right? And largely Americans who voted for Donald Trump are dumb, like really fucking stupid, or they're traitors, or they're criminals, or they're rapists, or they've been tagged with a bunch of different crimes that they're trying to outrun. So yes, to that question, I mean, no matter what happens in either one of those special elections, no matter what happens, I can guarantee you that there is a personal attachment that might be associated to a possible negative outcome for Elon Musk without question in my mind.
100% in Wisconsin. I mean, even if it's as this is a cleaner version of this, that he's just wanting to preserve his ability to rig the next elections so he doesn't go to jail. It's still all in his own interests, and that's certainly where his head is at. So that's the number 4 story. The special elections will be here tomorrow. We'll tell you how it's going. I don't think the polls will be closed by the time we are on the air, but we'll get a good idea of whether Republicans are turning out in great numbers, and that'll mean, in excess of 10% or 20%. We'll see what happens tomorrow in the Florida special elections and in Wisconsin. Then the number 3 story, I'm sneaking this in because I just want to get your. I just want to see you on
Go
this.
ahead, I'm always ready. Always ready.
Tim Pool, the guy who hosts Timcast, so-called radio personality or podcast personality, and also the recipient of at least $400,000 a month from the Russian government through a influencer scheme, is now a part of the very venerable White House press pool, which is, hard to get into. Not everyone gets a press pool pass at the White House. But because the administration has now taken over complete control over who gets to be in there, it used to be independently run by the White House Reporters Association. Now Tim Pool gets a slot, and he's able to sit amongst those journalists in the briefing room there, ask questions of the president, and spin things along for Russia. A basic right-wing Kremlin shill, there's no other way to describe him, is now in the White House pool. You go ahead.
What a disrespectful move, but I mean, like, you got career employees whose entire life is aimed at being in the White House press pool, right? Like, you really do. You've got real journalists that are getting shut out, like AP. I think they're back, if I'm not mistaken. But Tim Pool, let's talk about him for a second. If you remember the tenant media scandal, which really seems to be swept under the rug, a couple of Canadians were charged by Russia with the duty of putting together a 100% Russian-funded and directed media outlet called Tenant Media. There's a no mind up here named Cat Canada who was involved in that, who's also from Russia. There's another couple of other, Lauren Southern, another Canadian, who's involved in that. She's since disappeared. Smart for her. But there are 3 or 4 guys in the United States, Cernovich, Posobiec, Kirk, and the main one, only because I hate him so fucking much, Tim Pool, was getting $400,000 a month, $100,000 a week to do one video, one podcast, right? And it had to have an anti-Ukraine bent, anti-democracy bent, an authoritarian bent. He was literally getting his talking points from the guy that fucking hired him. So the DOJ then does this big press release, if you remember, several months ago, and they're like, hey, by the way, Tim Pool's a fucking Russian asset, and we have the receipts. Here's the receipts. Here's how much he got paid. Here's what he got paid for. Here's who actually pays Tenant Media's tab. Here are the people from RT that have set this up under the guise of being different people, and they're hustling tens of millions of dollars into this thing so that people can produce and amplify bullshit content for Russian necessity, right? So there's that. But the thing that makes me laugh the hardest about Tim Pool, and I haven't told anybody this story, so this is good. Everybody here on Substack's getting this for the first time. One of my best friends represents him and several other right-wing talk show hosts,
Ah.
right? So when this stuff happened, I put out a tweet. It went viral. I think it had 10 million views. It was enormous. And my phone rings one day, and it's my friend, and he's like, "Hey, dude, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, really good. Yeah, everything's good. Well, I haven't talked to you in a long time."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I want to talk to you about one of my clients." And I go, "Who's that?" He goes, "Tim Pool." I fucking started dying laughing.
What did he want? What did he
Well,
want?
well, because I'm pretty sure he was carving pieces of that off as part of his fee to be able to, sell ads, programmatic
Right.
ads, direct ads to connect him. And he's like, you're really messing up Tim Pool's life.
You're annoying him. Oh, well done. If you're messing up Pool's life,
And
well
so
done. I'm very
I,
proud of you.
I sent him the tweet, and I go, "You mean this tweet that had like at the time 10, 12 million views?" He goes,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I mean that tweet." And you don't understand what's going on here. I go, "No, I fucking read the DOJ papers. I completely understand what's going on here, dude." And he won't talk to me anymore. He won't talk to me anymore because I called him out on it, and I told him, "Hey, listen, dude, you can't work with guys like that. He's an agent of the fucking enemy, and you're making money off of him." Not a word. Haven't talked to him since. As a matter of fact, he and I had a deal that we put together where we were going to work together, and he was going to monetize some of my content. That disappeared as well.
So you really do have beef with Tim Pool then. Real serious beef. By the way, your microphone's a little softer than it was at the start of the show, and I don't know if it's disconnected a little bit or if it's just moved around, but that's no problem. I'm just letting you know.
How's that? Is that better?
Much
Okay.
better. Now I can hear you.
So
that's great. I love that story.
The great part about that story is that I did some research into Tim. Do you know how tall he is? He's 5'3".
Yeah, I know that. He's a very little guy. I have a story about Tim Pool too. Way back in the Occupy Wall Street days, I was really impressed by his street reporting on the protest, and actually did an interview with him. You can find it on YouTube, and I'm pretty complimentary about the guy. I didn't do it live with him in the space, but we did it on YouTube on a video. So I don't know if he was really 5'3". I can't confirm that personally, but I do know he's a very little guy with a huge ego that clearly was present way back then. But the thing about this is that, Occupy Wall Street was a lefty organization, if you recall. Yeah. This was about the left coming at Wall Street and occupying Wall Street and taking rid of all those incredible, capitalistic Goldman Sachs people and taking them down. So it's really interesting that he's evolved so much from then that now he's a complete right-wing shill. So he's just a gun for hire. Maybe he's an operative. Maybe he works for one of these intelligence agencies. Who knows? But he is now in the White House, and he's certainly on the take, no matter what. If you're paying him, whether it's $400,000 a month or whatever it is they're paying him, he now gets to influence that from the White House press pool briefing room, which is crazy.
And if you watched his demeanor after he did his first podcast when Tenet Media got shut down by the government and all their funding got taken away, he was shaking. He was offering excuse after excuse after excuse, talking about how much money he made, but he's fine, doesn't need to do it. I had no idea. His words, I had no idea I was funded by Russians.
Oh yeah, but of course he had no idea. How would he know? Those talking points from RT that came down in their group chat every day on Slack. Yeah. Do you think how would he know? How would he know that the Russian person with the Russian sounding name who says they work at RT is actually working for RT? How would you know that?
That guy has top secret clearance to cover fucking the president at the White House now.
Yeah. Well, top secret, but he's cleared for the White House though.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable. And he's not really a journalist. He's just a flamethrower. So why is he in there? Nobody knows. Well, we all know actually. Trump just wants friendly media. Let's move on to story number. This is actually story number 3, but maybe there's 2 story number 3s. Anyhow, number 2, we'll call it number 2.
Yes.
The tariffs begin on Liberation Day, says Donald Trump, on the 2nd or the 3rd. I don't know which is Liberation Day. It's not April 1st because he didn't want to put out tariffs on a day that would be misconstruing it as a joke, as April Fool's joke. So he moved it to the 3rd, which I believe is when they're starting. Most of these are automated tariffs. So 25% tariff on all imported cars and key auto parts, and then vehicles and parts compliant to the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement will be exempt, it says here, from those tariffs. I don't know if that's true. but it's all a mess. It's every day he changes his mind about what tariffs are going to be implemented, and it's also about reciprocal tariffs. So anything that any other government has instituted against American goods in response to his initial implementation of the tariffs, he is now going to reciprocate with matching all those tariffs back. It's I don't know if we know. Do we know what tariffs are actually going to land up in this mix of tariffs?
Like Canadian tariffs or
Or
their
just in
tariffs?
general, do we know what really is going to get
Uh,
is
we we
tariffed?
we do a little bit. So, from my understanding, I wrote a piece about it today that kind of outlines who pays for these tariffs, what's involved in it. If you go to my Substack, deanblundell.substack.com, you can actually read it. The piece is called "The Tariff War Starts This Week." Trump's tariffs lie will cost you thousands, and Canada's retaliation will cost the United States billions. So, yeah, I did a little research into that for this piece. So, apparently, since March the 4th, when this cockamamie bullshit started with Trump, as he was vacillating between tariffs tomorrow, no tariffs, tariffs next week, no tariffs, Liberation Day, no Liberation Day, plain ice, fentanyl, all the other bullshit. So, apparently, this is the deal. Canada, since March 4th, has had several tariffs put in place. So, we were already tariffing these guys.
Mm.
But Trump is looking to tariff several things, namely the automotive industry, which will die in the United States if he does this, because parts go back and forth several times. You're going to pay 25% every time they go back across the border when you put it on
Right,
a chassis.
crazy.
You put it. Yeah, it's so stupid. He's going to tariff steel. He's going to tariff lumber. And he is going to tariff some agricultural products as well. We're going to get the full announcement tomorrow from Trump. Apparently, he's called a Liberation Day fake news press conference / celebration. And again, this gets very interesting. He's called this Liberation Day for a reason. He's going to liberate any kind of relationship he's ever had and the United States has ever had with every allied country that they're going to war against.
You mean sever all the ties with the friendly
Yeah,
allies around the
you
world? That's what he's
you
going to do.
you liberated yourself a couple of months
Liberated.
ago.
It feels so
Yeah.
liberated.
Congratulations, you're there.
Yeah.
So apparently, what he's going to do, and this is interesting, he's going to call this announcement, and the second that announcement comes, Canada's already prepped phase 2 and phase 3 of our tariff response. Interesting, some of the things that are in that: manatee meat, bovine bull semen. Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. I didn't even know they made
Bovine
manatee
bull
bull
semen?
semen. Yeah, yeah, for some dairy
Hmm.
products. But we're going after the things that they need with export taxes. Now, the government of Canada is being a little coy about this. But here's the catch, Zev, and I
Mm.
don't think, and this is what I put in my piece today. A lot of people are focusing on, the why are you doing this to another country? I
Hmm.
say bring it on, and I'll say bring it on for a couple of very specific reasons.
Hmm.
There's essential, and then there's luxury. All of the really important raw materials we send into that country as part of our trade agreement with the United States are essential, right?
Okay.
Um, you've got oil,
Mm.
uranium, nickel, aluminum, lumber, energy, electricity. They're completely dependent on us for a lot of this stuff.
Like really
Potash,
important
right?
stuff that you
Re-
really need because if you
really
don't have
super.
it, yeah, it's like,
The lights go
yeah,
out, you can't
yeah.
grow food, that kind of shit.
People get really upset. You foment resistance and revolution, all that kind of stuff. So it's weird. But
Yeah.
anyway,
The things that that we are going to tariff that we can live without: wine, bourbon, orange juice, almonds, Harley Davidson motorcycles, RVs, boats, and certain vehicles. And we're going after all the luxury items. Now, we can survive without America's luxury items. I'm good without American bourbon. I'm good without a fucking Harley Davidson. I'm good without a new dishwasher that comes from the States or television that comes from the States. We can get that shit literally anywhere.
yeah,
They're not good if we do this back to them. They're not
yeah,
good at all. And let's
no,
up the ante a little bit. China, did you see this today? China,
mm.
Japan, and South Korea all issued a joint response saying, we're going to fuck you over to the United States.
How? What
We're
are they
going to
doing?
they're going to hit them back twice as hard. Apparently, they're going to
Oh,
go. They're going to tariff any goods coming in, and they're going to export tax anything going out for the United States. So there's Asia. Now leave it to Donald Trump's idiocy to bring 2,000-year-old beefs together with this country and these countries out in Asia.
yeah.
Like they dropped it all. And the EU today announced, and this is really interesting, they might block American goods from coming into those EU countries completely. So whatever happens on Wednesday, whatever grand announcement, don't believe it. He has been isolated to the point now where no one's going to do business with him. No one is going to do business with them. So if you don't think that tax, that tariffs, those export taxes from the free world and every country in the free world aren't going to hit every single American where it hurts the most, you're crazy.
Oh, it's going to
You're
hurt
looking at
Americans a
you're looking
lot.
at $12,000 to $25,000 a year extra for each individual household that you're going to have to pay for goods or services or lights, oil, whatever, it doesn't matter, raw materials that they're going to pass on to you. So effectively, and this is, it dawned on me today, Trump is effectively framing the free world in other democratic countries so that he can institute a massive transfer of wealth from the poorest and the middle class of America to the best, to the richest 5% of the United States. Because those tariffs affect those captains of industry in a positive way, right? The people that own all the goods, services, supply chains, they don't fucking pay for it. They just jack prices and pass it on to you. And it happened back prior to the I believe it was 1918, 1919. That's when these tariffs, she talks about going back to that time all the time
Yeah,
where America
there's
was the
the Great
richest.
Depression is where we were last time there were these kinds of tariffs, and we might
Yeah,
be going back there. And this could be being done deliberately by Trump. I mean, he could be trying to actually provoke another Great Depression because
he is.
it makes no sense otherwise to institute these tariffs, which are going to be disastrous for the American economy. I mean, it looks the revenue coming in should increase unless there really is a blockade. If there's a blockade, there won't even be a revenue increase. But what he's hoping for is that there's enough revenue increase in the beginning to make the balance sheet of the American government look stable. But if there isn't, if there's a blockade and nothing's coming in and out, well then that flies out the window. What he's not saying is that tariffs also increase inflation like crazy on people,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a bit of a lagged indicator. So that's going to happen months or years later that we're going to start seeing the effect of all this inflation. It's going to happen well after these tariffs are instituted. He's hoping the tariffs can cover him for a few months, maybe into the midterm elections, and gets another run at the elections in the midterms. But this is not a good look. It's going to hurt consumers everywhere in America. This is an indiscriminate attack on every American consumer, red states, blue states, you name it, on top of all the loss of jobs that are being announced by Elon Musk and Doge. And then on top of this, now if he is faced with a blockade around the world, as you're suggesting, from all these countries, I don't know how he reacts to that, but everyone's got to hunker down. Then in that case, everyone's going to need months and months of supplies to survive all this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand any of his reasoning behind this. When you go through and you see that the top five richest Americans are going to benefit, and 95% are just going to transfer their wealth to them. This is legitimately him destroying the poor, destroying the lower
Mm,
class, the middle class, taking their money, giving it to himself and his friends in the government, and then turning around and blaming every country that he tariffed.
yeah,
That's the cock up here. That's the joke here. Is
yeah.
that's what you and I are talking about, and then you get into the blockade, and then you get into not accepting American goods, and you're talking about a very cold 4 years for a lot of people that will set that country back like it already has 20 years, according to a lot of economists, that Trump is in a month and a half has set that country back 20 years already, not just when it comes to their financial status, but also when it comes to their international status or reputational status around the world. You're talking about generations, Ev.
Yeah, I know you are, but just the risk is that what they really could be trying to attack is the dollar. And as we found out in the Great Depression, is these if the US dollar really starts collapsing as the vehicle for all financing around the world, that'll give them an opening to institute the crypto bullshit that they're trying to institute. And I know that sounds crazy that could be underpinning all of this, that they really just want to put crypto in it. But I really do think that underpinning all of this is crypto, that their real desire is to get crypto inside the US reserves, either just as its own crypto reserve or to replace the US dollar as a reserve, in which case America's big hegemony of all currency around the world, well, that disappears. So all this, destruction that they are foisting on the American people could be to that end. And if it is to that end, then I don't know if the world's ready to handle it. I don't know if the world is ready for the US dollar to collapse and then to be replaced by cryptocurrency or whatever's left out there. And that does sort of that leads me to a lot of questions, which I don't think we have answers for yet.
Like 0.8% of crypto holders actually have money. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah.
know that. Yeah, and like less than 3% of the global population owns crypto. This is being done for a very specific reason. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree that they're trying to make it the reserve. And what happens when you run out of money, right? As a country, you go and change the financial system to the point where you've got other money, different kind
Exactly.
of money, and that money is in the hands of literally every single douchebag that's in his administration, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be Peter Thiel, whether it be David Sachs, whether it be who you and I have talked about quite a bit, whether it be Elon Musk. I mean, you're watching a bunch of different companies come up with tokens. Apple came up with an I token today, which is fucking crazy. Grok tokens are out now. So the preamble to this is interesting, but the only people that make money of any of these crypto scams or Bitcoin scams are the people that set it up, give you the exchange, and accept the money. Nobody else does. You're first in, or someone who that set it up and they're first in, and they're like, "Hey, listen, if you give me a bunch of money, I'm gonna get like a couple billion out of here for you." Everybody else that gets in on it, that is
Loses
just
money.
a regular person, not only loses money, they lose their fucking houses, they lose their
Mm.
life savings, right? The Melania coin and the Trump coin have lost, I don't know, 60, 70, 80% of their value. So if you bought in for 10,000, you're looking at 2,000, maybe 200, depending on the Melania coin, which is in the toilet. And they're just rugging everybody. So this is literally trying to rug the world and then take that rugging and make that process of payment processing, the national standard or the global standard, so that those criminal aspects that like to move money back and forth around the world and do it, unnoticed or unchallenged, can continue to do what they're doing right now. And who's the second biggest country in terms of owning crypto, other than China and the United States? It's Russia.
Well,
So
China's outlawed it, isn't it? Or is it? Not
no,
really? Okay. Well, and Russia makes a lot of Bitcoin as well. It mines a lot of Bitcoin now. But you're
yeah,
so right. What you're saying is 100% correct. There's a 25,000 to 1 ratio in terms of winners to losers on that. I did an analysis on the Melania and Trump coins, and that's what it came out 25,000 to 1. So, the one winner is the types of people like Elon
is
Musk
that
and David.
bad?
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Just FYI. But if what we're dealing with is what you're saying here is potentially a setting up of this new oligarchy, because
Mhm.
they will all these tech guys who surrounded him on inauguration day, they are also heavily invested in crypto. They will be the winners when this becomes the currency that's carrying the world, and they'll forever be that, because once you're the crypto gods, they'll never be losing money, and they'll be in charge of almost everything. They'll be in charge of the control of money flow, and clearly this is something that this administration feels very embedded to and wants to achieve. And I think the concerning part is that some Democrats may be involved in this in the Congress, and this is why you're seeing such tepid response to a lot of what Trump is doing, because I think at the end of the day, they need this crypto stuff to get through to get their shekels, their crypto shekels at the end of the day.
Oh, dude, great point. And the other thing is, yeah, you got to poison the well a little bit if you want stuff like this to work. So for
Yeah.
sure, there's some Dems and some lefties and some other left leaning, journalists that have been enriched with Bitcoin, that understand free money, that love free money, that like, I get that. But the really interesting part for me about this whole mess, specifically when it comes to who's going to be in charge and who holds the Bitcoin, is you don't just own that asset. You own all the transaction fees around that asset
Mhm.
too. Anytime money changes hands, there's a fee. Anytime, that goes up, there's a fee. Anytime it goes down, there's a fee. Anytime you process a payment, there's a fee. So, these guys aren't just talking about owning the whole Bitcoin reserve if they move the reserve to crypto. You're talking about them owning every transaction fee as well, like a bank, right?
That's why the Trumps have launched their own exchange, basically. And, on those Melania and Trump coins, Donald Trump made $100 million just on transaction fees, to your point. So, he went into the White House with $100 million as a bonus from his crypto investments, which no one's really talking about and is ridiculous because really it's just a bribe. And this is how, Donald Trump made a lot of money off crypto. And this is why they're so invested in it. They're launching
Mhm.
entire companies just on the idea that they can sell crypto in the future. And that's how the Trump legacy will continue.
Yeah, World Liberty Financial Group is just a bunch of criminals running a criminal, money laundering organization.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It's another Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
Number one story of the day is, and I think this is a story that's getting really ignored by everybody because it's a little dense, and there was so much else coming out from Signalgate. Everyone was really excited, but there was another leak from the Pentagon, and this is Pete Hegseth's big strategic plan for the world, actually written by the people at Project 2025, which we thought wasn't involved in the Donald Trump presidency, at least if you believed him, but actually is involved in the Donald Trump presidency. And there's two things that this particular document talks about. It talks about basically taking all of the world's resources that the military has around the world and pointing it at protecting Taiwan on the one hand from the potential takeover of China from China, all of the taking out pieces from the Middle East, Europe, and all these other places, and just positioning them around this one big concern that Hegseth has and that Donald Trump has around, China taking over Taiwan. That's the big win that they want to achieve. And the other, and this has gone really unnoticed, is this idea of near abroad, which is basically protecting the whole hemisphere, the Western hemisphere. This is around North America from any invasion or attacks against their national interests. This includes Greenland, it includes Canada, it includes Panama, it includes Costa Rica, it includes Mexico. It's basically this idea of running all of the North American continent as the United States of America. And this is something that they keep talking about on the election trail. They keep talking about, as policy now, when we hear Donald Trump talking about the 51st state and all these other things. But here it is in black and white as an actual policy document, as a document inside the Department of Defense. This is now the protocol that they're working towards. The two priorities are protect Taiwan and defend the home abroad, or the Western Hemisphere, which is really everything around North America. This is a terrifying document because I know people say Donald Trump will say anything, Elon Musk will say anything, and all these guys will say whatever they want. But to actually see that this is becoming planning, this is the strategic priority of the Pentagon going forward, that this is really where they're going, means they could be considering what they're saying out loud, which is an attack on Greenland, an attack on Panama, an attack on Mexico, and an attack on Canada. It could be very real. Go ahead.
No, and yeah, I just was pointing to myself because I'm Canadian. They're coming. I mean, I don't know if you watched JD Vance walk around aimlessly in Greenland for 3 hours a couple days ago.
I did because it was so funny to watch.
It was so fucking hilarious.
Hi, Greenland. I mean, the military base that I'm sequestered to.
You see him wave to nobody when he got off the plane. There's like nobody there. The whole fucking country hates him. Canada hates him.
They're like, do not come.
No. The Taiwan thing is, let's set that aside apart for a second. But there's got to be some kind of financial advantage there for the people that are involved in that document and the policy. The home abroad, it literally pieces together, if you read the policy, all the tactics and strategies behind the rhetoric that we're seeing from Donald Trump, JD Vance, Navarro, every fucking village idiot that's involved in that administration, where they talk about we have to have Canada, we have to have Greenland. We need Canada, we need Greenland, and we need Canada and Greenland to protect our interests. That fits into the home abroad policy. And not only does it fit into the home abroad policy, to be able to forcibly take, because Donald Trump said this, he goes, we might have to use military force to take Greenland. Like he literally said that the other day. And if you couple that with JD Vance's comments, it's like, hey, the president wants what he wants. Who are we to stand in the way of what the president wants? It's not like, hey, this is a sovereign nation, or hey, this is its own country, or hey, this is a fucking this is a member nation state of NATO, through Denmark. I mean, like it just so it fits in with, and the desire to take over these countries that they're currently trying to tell everybody that we need it, you want it, we got to have it, it's ours, and they've dropped the whole pretense of they'd be much happier people if they were part of the United States. Now they're just saying it, right? Now Trump's just like, got to have it, it's ours, we need it for defense, because under that guise you can justify any military action, any forcible takeover of any country, if you just simply tell people, well, this is against our national security interests. We're doing it to protect Greenland. We're doing it to protect. No. They're not doing it for any of those reasons. They're doing it for natural resources. They're doing it for expansionist goals and ideologies. They're doing it because they believe this is manifest destiny. They're literally laying the tracks to take over countries in South America and countries in North America and European countries that sit off the coast of Canada. That's why they're doing this, for access to the Northwest Passage. Here's where that gets really interesting, if you ask me.
Mm.
And you did, so thank you. I'm going to say something. Where
How
that
do you
gets
really
in,
feel?
I'm sure some guy sent me a note today on
Yeah.
Substack. He's like, "Dude, I hope you're okay dealing with all this content because like I'm losing my mind over here." I'm like, "No, I'm good. I love it. I love talking
Yeah.
about it. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, because we try to ferry people through these conversations so they kind of understand what's at stake." But one of the things that was really interesting was last week. Mark Carney uh, got on a phone call with Donald Trump. Now, Mark Carney had ghosted Donald Trump for fucking days after becoming the prime minister. Trump had tried to get in touch with him to talk to him, and Carney said, "Yeah, I'm not fucking talking to you until you put some respect on the office of the prime minister and this country, this sovereign nation." So I don't know if you saw the tweet that Trump put out after that phone
Yeah.
call,
Yeah. I did.
because Carney gave him the rules of engagement. He said, "I'll talk to you under one circumstance: you respect me, you respect this country, you don't go off on Truth Social after and you tell someone a story that's not true." And I have it on pretty good authority that the conversation was very short and Mark Carney was very fucking terse and Donald Trump
Mm.
was really trying to backpedal. So that tweet that came out after the phone call was like, "I just had a lovely conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of
Canada.
Canada. We're going to do our best to solve this
Mm.
problem. We're going to have a great time." Because what has happened in the meantime is Canada has struck security and economic trade deals with other countries. And Mark Carney, as we pointed out last week, said it's over.
Mm.
Our conversation with you is over. Our partnership with you, the United States of America, is over. We're done. We're out of the business. We're going to go with other people. But what people don't understand is what's been going on behind the scenes. Mark Carney has legitimately struck economic and security deals that feed into each other, that are very exclusive with certain EU countries and countries like New Zealand, Australia, etc. We're going it alone. It
Mm.
doesn't matter what happens. So Donald Trump's only option at this point is a forcible takeover of this country. He can still like pretend he's dominating Greenland, but Denmark released a statement today outside of their travel advisory to the United States. Are like, "We'll fight tooth and nail to keep it. Fuck you."
Yeah, all of
So
NATO will fight. I mean, they have to fight, except for the Americans,
yes,
obviously. But they,
yes.
it's not. It's that's what the whole thing is about. That's why NATO exists. I mean, you're absolutely right. Carney was very, very. He's handling Trump very well. But I think what's happening is even much bigger than that. You've got a European, Canadian, New Zealand, Australia, whatever alliance, and a very coordinated effort now to really isolate Donald Trump. And he is getting outplayed every step of the way by
Mm-hmm.
all these very smart European leaders and very smart Canadian leaders who just know what they're doing. It
Yeah.
does lend credence to this idea that the Pentagon really is planning these attacks on America and Greenland and Mexico, or they wouldn't be acting this way. I mean, if Carney thought that Trump was just full of bluster and this was nothing, he wouldn't be out there making new deals with America, with Europe, and other parts of the world. But he's doing that because likely they know exactly what Donald Trump is planning in the Pentagon because they're, well connected there. So,
Well, there's a reason there's a nuclear French submarine off the coast of Halifax right now.
right, exactly. So, this is a big story. I wrote about it on narrative.org. It's getting a lot of traction. Everyone should check it out, narrativ.org. But it's just worth following. If you're a journalist, if you're a reporter, if you're just an influencer out there, this is a big story. The fact that the Pentagon is repositioning all its assets away from the Middle East, away from terror threats, away from even homeland threats related to terror. What they really are concerned about is Taiwan. Let's talk about Taiwan for a second here. There's no ways that America's resources should be spent on that country, which is, surely an independent democratic country, but also really heavily influenced by Beijing. I mean, that is not just an autonomous country living on its own, right on the
Mm-hmm.
border of, the world's second largest superpower. So, there's a lot of influence going on in that democracy, which is not normal. We certainly should. I don't believe America should be spending any firepower trying to stop Taiwan from being taken over. I know there's an agreement to do that from way back when, but is it worth burning up an entire a few years of your existence like you did in Vietnam or Korea or Afghanistan just to be trapped in another war on the Chinese border? I don't think so, especially when you've got all these other threats going on around the world. But so the fact that for some reason, Trump and Hegseth think this is the priority in the world, Taiwan is your priority, you must be giving me a break. Give me a break. This is ridiculous. This is not a place where America should be spending too much energy on Taiwan. Of course, we shouldn't be, offering Taiwan over to the Chinese, but they kind of have it already.
Yeah, I think that that's a red herring, and I think the real play is the home abroad play. And I think like anything that we hear from any government, specifically this government, there's so much misdirection, so much wag the dog bullshit,
Mm.
right? So to your point, yeah, I mean, are they really going to move away from positioning their assets where they're positioned now? Probably not. But that's all music to Vladimir Putin's ears, though, isn't it?
I
That
mean, I
they're
think
going to
they
take.
will. I think they're going
You
to
think
take
so?
things. I think they want half of their resources stuck in the Pacific region because it's really not where the action is going to be. The action is going to be up in the Arctic, and so they're deliberately are trying to weaken America's hand because they are. I'll just say where we started off the show: Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump are in the same tank together. They're
Hmm.
running, and so is Xi, and they're doing the world the way they want to do the world. Everybody else is trying to stop them, and I think you just have to keep that in mind in every story that we focus on. And that's why I do can see them burning resources in Taiwan, they burned resources in Vietnam and Korea. Like those were traps too, and they fell right into them. So I'm not so sure that they wouldn't move those resources there, but it's not for the good of the American people or the good of the American republic as we've known it.
Yeah, just remember one thing. Anytime you see anything about any of this stuff, it's only good for one guy and his friends. That's it.
Yeah.
It's only good for Donald Trump. Anything that you see like this, anything you read when it comes to repositioning, war assets, when it comes to changing policies or changing direction, everything that he has done when it comes to alienating allies, taking Russia's side, pretending to hate Putin, all the things we've talked about today, is only because it's good for one person.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all.
And this reminds me that there's a good reason why they're trying to gaslight everybody and make people feel like they're more legitimate this week than they were last week, and that is because they're concerned that April 5th is going to be a very big day in America, where a lot of people are going to show up to protest Donald Trump for the first time in these organized national protests called the Hands Off protests. A lot of people are going to show up. A lot of people need to be careful when they show up, but do go because this is the time when Americans are going to be seen around the world to actually be expressing their real voice, to expressing their opposition to Donald Trump. And it's happening in DC, but it's happening in every city around North America. We'll be covering it here on Narrative. I'll give you wall-to-wall coverage of all of that, plus taking your videos, your calls, and your thoughts. There is a warning for people not to take their cell phones there on location either, because that's very highly trackable. Maybe get a burner phone. Maybe you're okay with what's on your phone. You don't mind it being mined by
The fucking what time are we living in right now?
ah, man, we're
It's
living in
so crazy.
dystopia, it's dystopia, America, the United States of Russia. But this is important. Americans need to go out and express themselves. Look up at Hands Off 2025, where the local protest is happening in your area. Get together with a group of friends, so you're not going there alone. Have a plan of going in and maybe staying a little longer if you need to, and keep at it. This is about the only pressure that's going to really stop Donald Trump now. I don't think that's going to happen congressionally. The judiciary at some point is going to start cracking. So it's people power. It's people power all the way through, and hopefully people will show up on April 5th. I think it's one of the reasons the administration is having a little panic attack right now.
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why they're trying to change the script and inject fear into a whole bunch of different other areas, flood the zone with bullshit, if you will. But yeah,
Mm.
show up, America. We're showing up. You show up. Everybody show up. Canada's showing up. Quick aside, Canada's showing up with our hatred for Donald Trump. We are decimating the travel and tourism industry in the United States right now.
Oh my gosh.
70% drop in airfare to the United States from Canada.
I mean,
they,
Canadians are
they
not
they were saying
going.
two, dude. They were saying two to 4 billion. It's closer to 10 to 20 billion in economic losses because Canada's like fuck that guy. So let's all say fuck that guy together. April 5th. What do you say?
I think it's a great idea and a good note to end tonight's show. Dean Blundell is at the Dean Blundell Substack, which is deanblundell.substack.com. It's the hottest thing on Substack right now. Everyone should be subscribing to Dean's Substack. You'll find me at narrative.org, narrativ.org. You can subscribe there to my newsletter, which is part of Substack, and get regular updates from me. We're here every Friday with Olga Lautman as well. And this has been the Substack. Does you want to say anything? Do you want to say anything before we go?
No, you crushed it. I love your Substack too. You've written some really great pieces recently. If anybody
Thank you.
wants a deep dive, if anybody wants a really understanding, very, very bright look at the inside of what's going on, whether it's with Elon Musk or Donald Trump, Zeb always has it first. So make sure you go subscribe to his and mine if you like. Paid subscribers are always really, really grateful. And we interact with people too. We talk in the chats. I had a really nice chat with a guy today. I can't remember his name. His name was Hal. That was his name. Hal. I love you, Hal. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you taking some time for us today. Thanks.
And everyone should check out Dean's blog for exactly that reason, because you get to talk to this great man who's a great broadcaster, amongst many other things. That's the Five Stack. We'll see you tomorrow at 5:30 on Substack. Have a good night, everybody.